Is homeschooling better than traditional education? What do you think? I'm Nicolene Peck. I teach parenting and self-government all over the world, but also I'm a homeschooler. I've actually homeschooled all four of my children, and I have definite thoughts on this. So we're going to be talking about homeschooling versus traditional education in this video. So what is traditional education and what is homeschooling? Do they have any similarities? What are their differences? And what really is better for you, your children, and just people in general? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So hold on to your seats. We've got a lot to cover. What does it mean to have a traditional education? So when a lot of people think about traditional education, they think public school or maybe private school, and they think you go to a class, you open a book, you listen to a teacher, you do the worksheets, you do the papers, you take the tests, you get the thing at the end, the little diploma or whatever that says, I'm done, and then you move on to more education at the college level. And this is what they think traditional education is. But if you truly look at the history of education, which I have, because when I chose to homeschool my children, I wanted to really understand education, what I was doing, what I was pulling away from, and what I was giving to my children. And so I decided to study education and to learn specifically how people learn. You know what I found over time is that there are many school teachers that don't even know how people actually learn. They know how to write a curriculum, they know how to deliver it to students, but they don't know how to help the child truly learn and the process that their brain goes through when they learn. That was something that I wanted to know. I've always loved learning because my father was a public school teacher and a university professor, a really smart guy. In fact, when I started to homeschool, he was a little bit worried that our family might be a little bit weird. The funny thing was, after just a few years of homeschooling, he looked at me and said, Nicolene, I've got to hand it to you. I never knew that a person could learn this many things by this age. And I didn't know that homeschooling could look so incredible. He said, if I had to do it all over again with you, I would do it like this. So let's talk about traditional education. Did you know that homeschooling actually is traditional education? I know many of us think of traditional education as what I mentioned before, all the hoops and things we go through at the school. But if you really look at the history of education, what you see is that traditionally children were actually taught by their parents in their homes. It really is, in the history of the world, a very new approach to put children all day in an institution, in a room, away from their parents, away from their siblings, isolated only by age groups, with one person to tell them what to do. This is a new construct. Education, the way we see it today in the public schools, began because of religious education systems that started a long time ago. So it used to be that boys oftentimes were allowed to go to the church or the seminary or somewhere, and they could learn religiously if they were privileged enough to get that opportunity to go. And not everybody got that chance or could afford to take the time to even go and do this. But this wasn't something that happened all day, every day with tons of homework. It was just a way to go and get mentored in some key things that maybe mom and dad didn't have time for. So then after that, it went back to mostly parents doing the education. Over time, what happened was parents started noticing that it could be beneficial for a community of children to meet together for maybe a few months, a certain amount of days in a year, in a one-room schoolhouse with people of all different ages, and they could learn some of the basics. Now, the parents were still handling the character development, the religious and spiritual development, and making sure that the children knew how to work and got all of the information that they need for a profession. But what they were doing in the one-room school schoolhouse is they were preparing a child to be fully literate, okay? To be able to read and write and compute and think and debate and speak. This is what they taught them. Now, I want you to ask yourself, with what you know about normal public education today, are they giving children a full liberal arts education anymore? Do children know how to express themselves and do public speaking? Do they know how to debate? Do they know how to extract data from stuff and formulate opinions and study things syntopically? I think you might find that the answer to most of those questions is not so good, or no, they don't. So when we're thinking of traditional education, please know that there's two different versions of that. Traditional education that I absolutely adhere to as a homeschooler is teaching my children the liberal arts and really helping them truly read the hard stuff, not just fascinating stuff that makes them want to spend the time reading, but where they really get into the classics and the great thinkers and come face to face with greatness. You can do that if you can tailor fit an education more to someone. Right now, our education is on such a mass scale that it's like assembly line production of children. And there's always going to be people who fall through the cracks. Maybe they get moved on just arbitrarily, but really those children, so many of them are not going to get exactly what they need to be inspired and to feel purpose-driven for their lives. But a parent can give that. A parent knows the child better than anybody else and can tailor fit the education to them and make sure that they get all the pieces they need, if the parent wants to. I know homeschool is definitely not for everyone. So I was talking to a woman today, and she was saying, me and my husband have been contemplating homeschooling our future children and kind of don't feel like we know if we should or not, and are wondering if we need to prepare for that just because of all the things that are happening educationally and in the world around us. And she said, what do you think, Nicolene? Do you think homeschooling is the best choice? And to be completely succinct, the shortest answer possible, the answer is yes. I do, if a parent can do it and if they want to do it. Now, not all homeschoolers are created equal. I'm sure you've met a few that are, a little off, or you think, oh, they might not socially turn out or something like that. There can always be that. But please remember that if you analyzed all the home situations in a public school classroom, you would see many, many that do not have good social skills, that won't turn out right, that can't carry on a proper conversation with people. There's a lot of weird out there. In fact, I think it's strange that we are categorizing just someone who is outside of the normal as weird, but everybody else who does everything the same is somehow okay, even if they don't turn out. It's a little strange, isn't it? As a homeschooler, my children and I decided that we would embrace weird. That we knew many people thought that we were weird because we chose to homeschool. But it absolutely was one of the best decisions I ever made for my family and for our relationships. We truly became united and one as we embarked upon each day as a new learning experience as a family. We discussed all of the cool things. I got to see all the sparks fly instead of just hope they were flying somewhere else where I wasn't. And so we decided weird was good. And so we would say things like, oh yeah, we're weird. And we were okay with that. So it is true that some people might think homeschooling is unusual or different. But if you feel like, is this something I should do for my children? Probably there's something in you that is preparing for the fact that the answer might be yes. Homeschooling can preserve principles, liberty, families, all the kinds of things right now that sadly are under attack. Homeschooling is the type of environment where the parent and child discuss things that matter. The parent can bring books to the table that the child could experience transformation from instead of just random fluff books that mean nothing. The parent can truly groom the child's character and help them find that life is hopeful, joyful, and full of purpose instead of overwhelming, anxious, and fraught with anxiety and frustration and social displeasure, which is what the social looks like at school nowadays. Before I tell you this personal story about a conversation that I had with somebody about homeschooling really recently and some of the things that we've done as a family to really own homeschooling, I would like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. There are multiple videos on this channel about homeschooling and about parenting and self-government. To be a successful homeschooler, you've got to be a successful communicator, and these videos will definitely help you. So click subscribe now. I speak at homeschool conferences all over the world. And as one of those premier speakers at those conferences, I feel that it is my duty to explain to the people that homeschooling is not about reading, writing, and arithmetic. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Homeschooling is about family. Homeschooling is about bonding. It's about who we are. And it's about learning in general. It's about sparks flying. And you know what? Many people are highly successful at it. But at the end of the day, even if my children did not really do well in math, I would not consider myself to be a failure at homeschool. Because what we have as a family is something that other people are jealous of, and it only comes because we had time together. The family wasn't an afterthought to homework and school. The family was the thought that led to school and learning. That's what homeschooling is about. If you want that for your family, then yes, homeschooling is better. It is the epitome of traditional education. It's exactly what most people are looking for. Don't be afraid of the little failures. There will be many days that are not perfect. In fact, speaking of those imperfect days, I want to share a special gift with you. So I have created a video on this channel called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. This is a class that I often teach at homeschool conferences so that parents can understand how to fix their homeschool days when they go off course. This class will be very helpful to you as you are embarking upon your journey of homeschool. And if for some reason you choose not to homeschool your child, don't feel like that means you're a failure either. Just keep a homeschool mindset. When your child is home, they're with the family. It's about the family. Don't push them out the door all the time. They need your strength, now more than ever. Click the link to The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success, and I promise you won't be disappointed.